everyone, and welcome back to another Storytime video. Today, I am going to talk about the best games of all time. I am going to cover my personal top 25. Now, I just want to say that lists a favorite of anything, whether it be songs, video games, movies, or books, is very, very subjective. And I guarantee you that as long as thousands, if not tens of thousands of X exists, whether it be movies, video games, books, or music, well, songs, like I mentioned, I doubt two people will ever have the exact same list on accident. Well, by accident. I suspect that it would always be on purpose. I mean, in terms of video games, which is something I'm very familiar with, some people really love Ride to Hell Retribution. There is somebody out there that really loves that game. And if you are somehow that person out there, then hey, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just highlighting the fact that not a lot of people would, well, most people would consider that a horrible game. But there are human beings out there that like that. I mean, heck, there's a Far Cry New Dawn review where I read where the person said that New Dawn might be the best game ever made, and that it's definitely the best Far Cry game ever made. So even games that aren't that bad, or at least from what I've heard that aren't really that bad, could be someone's favorite. So the game and the gameplay in the background, Team Fortress Classic, might be someone's favorite game of all time. And that they might enjoy this one a lot more than TF2. But, I just wanted to get that out of the way before I get something else out of the way. And that is that I will be covering only single-player games, excuse me. So, Team Fortress Classic, I have it in my all games, like games that don't have an ending, and games that have an ending list, but this is the games that do have an ending. I feel like having both is a pretty good idea, but just so you know, I really love TF2, as many of you might know, but you won't see it appearing on this list, and that's why. So, I have only completed 30 games that do have an ending on Steam. Yes, this is regarding Steam. So that these are games that I have played in my adult life. So these games, my judgment is not clouded by nostalgia for any of these games, which for one or two of these games might have actually been the case had nostalgia really played a key role in it and what I thought about it as a kid, but also so that I can better keep track and go to my Steam page and go, well, I've completed that game, and X game because I've completed on the Nintendo DS games like New Super Mario Brothers that I haven't played in forever. I beat that 11. Well, a friend helped me beat that 11 years ago. I think I've made a video on that, but or storytime video on that, but it's just a lot easier for me to keep track of only the Steam games and not overall games that I've beaten throughout my entire life. So keep that in mind. Okay. So, and also, I might update this list annually in terms of top 25. But yeah, so without further ado, here is my top 25 games of all time that I've completed on Steam. Just single player games that have credits involved in them. At number 25, you have, well, yes, well, you have 10 seconds. Now, I was gonna say you have, and then, it was, okay, anyway, 25. You have 10 seconds. Just the first one. Not the second one. The second one's shorter, and I completed it in like an hour. It's very hard for me to rank a game anywhere high when I can only get an hour's worth of game out of it. So, but you have 10 seconds, 1. And by the way, whenever I don't say a number at the end of it, just assume that I mean the first game. Okay, number 24, Plants vs. Zombies. Now, this is a game where I would have ranked it higher as a kid because I had this game on the Nintendo DS, and I was in love with this game when I was a kid. But as an adult, I realized that this game is not as great as kid me would like to let on because there's, now granted, there's 50 levels, but it's like your front yard during the day, your front yard at night, your backyard during the day, your backyard at night, and then your roof. Like, come on, man. I just feel like the levels don't stand apart from each other. So it's kind of weird for me to say that there are 50 levels in that game. I mean, it's still a good game. I mean, all of these games pretty much from here I would say are good and that I would really replay again. Well, pretty much all the games I would say are good. But yeah, number 23, you have Ink. This is a game where, once again, the levels don't really feel distinct from one another. I love that you can color the landscape and all that stuff, but this game, toward the back half, just seemed like it was infuriatingly difficult, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. At number 22, you have Max Payne 2. I just didn't enjoy this game as much as the first game, honestly. So, it gets ranked down this low. Kindergarten 1, or Kindergarten, at 21, Kindergarten. Now, I like this game, but it just doesn't feel as big as it should, honestly. I love the other students and the storylines that you can take place with, or that take place in the world on Monday, but it just left me wanting more. So it gets number 21. Number 20 is Portal. Now, Portal is a good game, but it is short and the puzzles were a little bit too easy for me. Just a tad. I wish they had packed a little bit more content in and made the puzzles a little bit more difficult overall. Like, if the puzzles were on a scale of 10, I wish that the puzzles could be like 0.25% better. Number 19, Bioshock 2. I love Rapture, but to me, it just didn't feel like Delta had a real personality that I could attach to. Now, sure, there was some, but I would much rather prefer a human protagonist. I mean, my protagonists don't even have to speak in order for me to like them. I mean, I like Chell, and there's a couple more voiceless protagonists coming up that I do really like. But Bioshock 2 just feels like it doesn't have the same soul that the first game had. So that's why it's so low. It's good. I mean, it's not as bad as some people make it out to be, but it's just not that great. Up next, at 18, is Borderlands 2. Now, there's a few things that I don't like about this game. Now, this is probably the first and maybe the only game where people go, whoa, you have that low below some of the other games in your list? It's like, are you sure Game X is better than Borderlands 2? And to that I would say yes. Again, it is my list. All these lists are very subjective. But I rank this game this low because, first off, they killed Roland in the worst possible way by having him shot in the back. And they just moved on like it was practically nothing. And that really got under my skin after playing as Roland in BL1. Now, I also didn't like the UI in BL2. A couple of the controls I didn't like either, especially when driving. But I just didn't quite feel like they retained the same charm that they had in BL1. Jack was great as a villain. That's why it doesn't rank a little bit lower on this list. But regardless, it is at 18. Now, at 17, I have Transformers Fall of Cybertron. Transformers Fall of Cybertron, I do really like, but it's just hard to explain certain games. And this is one of those. I mean, well, my kind of first gripe is, why does Optimus Prime all of a sudden have a new body? He didn't need one, like Megatron needed one, in this game. And like Cybertron, but I didn't like the fact that you are destined to be a particular bot on a mission. At number 16, I have Kindergarten 2. Now, Kindergarten 2 took Kindergarten and built on top of it, put it into a new school, and really built upon Kindergarten 1, but it had more characters, more storylines. There was a lot more to offer, and it was overall a deeper game. So that's why it's better than Kindergarten 1. 15, I have Max Payne. Now, I really like Max Payne. But one of the main issues I have with Max Payne is that the story is very, very basic. Let me see how long it takes to describe the story. Okay, and go. So, Max Payne's wife and baby girl were killed by this company, or this group of people. And you ultimately go through the game and try to find out throughout a chain, trying to find out who or what exactly killed Max's wife and daughter. That was less than 30 seconds. Okay, number 14, Transformers War for Cybertron. I loved the level layouts more in War for Cybertron than I did Fall of Cybertron. It's unfortunate you don't get to play as the Dinobots in War for Cybertron, but I love that you get the choice of one of 3 bots to play as on that particular level that you're playing on. So I really did enjoy that. Number 13 is the original Fallout. So Fallout 1. I did not like the fact that you have a time limit to get the water chip that it needs, and quite frankly, it ranks this low because it doesn't really hold up to today. Now, I try to rank games based on back then. Like, looking at it back then versus now is going to be totally different, but I try to rank it for the times back then. But I just enjoyed the games that are ahead of this game a whole lot better. Number 12, I have Hotline Miami 2. Now, I didn't like the music in Hotline Miami 2 as much as I did in Hotline Miami 1, and I am fine with how it ended, except for the fact that we don't get a Hotline Miami 3 as a result of it. But simply put, I enjoyed Hotline Miami 2 more. I felt like it had more of that charm to it than Hotline Miami 2. I felt like when Devolver was... It's either Devolver or Donation. When one of those two were making the first game, I feel like they poured a lot of heart and soul into it because they didn't plan to make a second one. Well, maybe that's not why, but they didn't plan to make a second one, and when they did decide to, I think they just wanted to finish it. So I didn't feel like it had that charm to it. Number 11, Left 4 Dead 2. Now, zombie games don't really do it all for me, but I loved the team aspect and trying to stay together, as well as all the additional content without having to pay for DLC. I forgot to mention this at the very top, but I am grading these games based on the base game, not any DLC. So if I bought Left 4 Dead 2 without any DLC, what would it come in it? Like, what would I get with it? That's what I'm basing these games off of, because not everybody can afford DLC and not everybody likes DLC. So, number 10, going into the top 10, I have Borderlands. I really enjoy Borderlands. Now, the cookie cutter story, it's just that, but I don't mind it that much. And I loved playing with Roland. Like I said with BL2, I loved playing Roland in BL1. And I felt like it had a lot of that charm that was lost in BL2, like I said. And so that's why it's number 10. Number 9, I have Portal 2. Now, some of you might be questioning why Portal 2 is so high on this list, but the campaign is a pretty good length in its own right, and it is basically Portal 1, but expanded with more of a backstory, more gels, so they have more creative freedom when making puzzles. And on top of that, the reason why it's so high is because of the co-op. The co-op in this game is separate from the actual campaign. So you can complete the co-op without even having completed the main story. And I have completed the co-op more times than I have the actual campaign, by the way. Just because I love playing it with friends. And also, the fact that the community gets to make test chambers and that you get to play them, just amazing. That's why Portal 2 is number 9. Number 8, I have Bioshock Infinite. Now, I love Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, but I love Rapture more than Infinite, and Infinite doesn't have a true boss battle at the end. So I'll get to Bioshock in a minute or two, but I still really enjoy Bioshock Infinite, and it is very deserving of number 8. Number 7 is Doom 2016. This game is amazing. Now, this game doesn't rank any higher because the gameplay is amazing, but hardly anything else. I'm not going to mention story because it's Doom. What do you expect? A J.K. Rowling type story? No, I don't. But it's just not as great as the other games higher on this list. Number 6, Bioshock. I love Rapture more than Columbia. Columbia's great. I do like that setting, but Rapture is better in my opinion. And there is a true boss battle at the end of this game. So that's why it gets love. So that's why it gets ranked over Bioshock Infinite. Okay, top 5 now. At number 5, I have Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Now, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is a standalone game, and so that's why I feel like I can rank it in a best games list. Ubisoft said it themselves, so don't get mad at me, get mad at Ubisoft. And also get mad at them for not being able to make games like this ever again. In terms of being great. Now, that's beside the point. What I really like about this game is that it basically parodies video games, and it is a love letter to the 80s. I love the 80s aesthetic. the synthwave, neon lights everywhere. The final boss is in a cinematic, which does suck, and that the game is short, and that it's kind of easy. Even on the hardest of difficulties, it's just easy. It's just easy. And number 4, I have Hotline Miami. Hotline Miami, oh my god, for being a 2D game, it is truly amazing. I love this game. Simply put, I love the gunplay. Well, it's a 2D game, but I love the guns. I love the melee weapons. I love that you can use the melee weapons to kill people in unique ways, and I freaking love it. I love that the masks give you different abilities. So, plus it feels like it's the right length for a game. Number 3, I have Transformers Devastation. I love this style of hand-to-hand combat. This is what I really feel like Transformers really should be, as opposed to the more gun-focused gameplay that War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron are. And the fact that it looks like 80s Transformers with a totally wicked soundtrack. I love it. Unfortunately, it is kind of short, and I wish they would release a sequel already after they kind of teased that at the end of the game. So I kind of hate that, but I'm not going to dock Devastation points just for that. At number 2, I have Half-Life 2. Simply put, Half-Life 2 is a work of art. It is a work of art. And there's only one game that can outdo it, of course. And I really love Half-Life 2 as it expands upon the events that take place in the first game, and all the different levels, such as Ravenholm. I really love I loved the challenge of only using the gravity gun in Ravenholm. Yes, I did get that achievement on my first playthrough, and I love how unique the levels are. And it's just a work of art, dude. I don't think I could say really, well, practically anything about this game that hasn't already been said about it. But my number 1 game of all time is Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas was made by the people that made Fallout 1 and 2, and it is basically it's like a 3D version of those two games. I love the amount of choices, or the amount of choice that it gives you, and the 4 factions that you, well, not factions, because Yes Man and Mr. House aren't really factions, but you could side with them. So it gives you 4 different options. So if you want to 100% it, you have to play it 4 different times at least. And so it gives you a lot of replayability beyond the choices. Like in the first mission, Ghost Town Gunfight in Goodsprings, where the Powder Gangers want to get this guy Ringo back. You can either side with the Powder Gangers, which is something I haven't done yet, but I will eventually. Probably for my YouTube playthrough I will. Or you can help the people of Good Springs. And the most amazing thing about this game is that it was made in 18 months. Yes, that's right. The greatest game ever, in my opinion, was made in 18 months. But yeah. So that was my list of the top 25 games of all time. Let me know your thoughts down below and give me a list of your favorite games or your favorite game of all time, whether it be 1, 5, 10, 25, whatever. Just let me know. And see us, guys. I do believe that will do it for this storytime video. And next storytime video, I will see you later. Goodbye, guys. Thank you all for watching.